Test. Michael, can you hear me? Test.
we listen to the comforting words of the 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo echsar, bihino desher yarbitseini, al mei menuchot yenaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'maglet tzedek, yancheni b'maglet tzedek, leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit samavet, lo irora ki ata imadi, shiftecha umin shantecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai, shulchan neged sorerai, deshanta vashem en roshi, kosi revaya. Tov chesed yirdefoni, kol yemei chayai, v'shofti b'veit Adonai, le'orech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar, Adonai roi lo echsar.
Those are the beautiful words of the 23rd Psalm, a psalm of hope and comfort. And if you know the words, I'll ask you to join with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The psalmist writes, Adonai, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless, but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. The poet writes, Leda hi reshit uvtira taklit. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Leida hi reshit uftira taklit. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Mark had a rich and full life, a life that his family would have taken another, say, couple of 100 more decades with him, a couple more years, couple months, couple more moments, a few more deliveries from the post office. They would take whatever would come their way, perhaps another opportunity to get dressed up in matching clothes, or perhaps a moment to read from the good book, 1,000 Free Materials on Love, Sex, and Marriage. I quote to you, because there has never been a book like this written and published before, except for the other 100 that were similar, we had to start from scratch. We wrote to thousands of business associations, nonprofit groups, state and federal government agencies, businesses and manufacturers, educational institutions, medical associations, and the like. Mind you, this was before this thing called a computer. In addition, we read and clipped thousands of items from newspapers and magazines. This doesn't happen unless you're a person that is living your life. Mark M. Weiss lived his life. He didn't try to be like anyone else. He couldn't have been like anyone else. He had no choice but just to be himself. He was loved and adored and respected by virtually everyone that came in contact with him. Last night I get, my doorbell rings around 5:30, and for those of you who live in our neighborhood, it's Wade. Wade's our postman. He's not just a postman. He is a messenger. He is a connector. He's like out of a book that doesn't, it's a movie that doesn't exist anymore. He's part of our lives, the fabric of our lives. If something doesn't look right at my house, I get a phone call. If he's not sure where a member of the temple is, he calls me and says, "Do you know where Mark and Blanche are?" He's really a connector. That is so much also a reflection of Mark, because Mark was that kind of connector as well. But Wade's boss, Jose Tirado, I believe that's correct, who is the senior the senior clerk at the post office, wrote the following: Mr. Weiss will be in my heart and mind with good memories for a long time. He was always happy, cheerful, patient, with a great personality towards everyone around him. There may be some redundancies that you hear today. Mark was the same with everyone, and so you may hear some of these words a few times today. I'll always remember when he would walk into my post office and say, "Good morning, good people." He also loved his wife immensely and always spoke great about her. I'm going to miss him. I know it's hard for the family. Our thoughts and prayers to everyone. Words cannot express how saddened we are to hear of his loss. Sincerely, Jose Tirado, representing the entire U.S. Postal Service. Mark was a highly religious person. His sanctuary was his garage. His retreat center was the post office. His Sabbath was every day. His priestess was a cookie. His prophet, a mailman. His congregation, his family, and the watchword of his faith was, "Good morning, good people." In Pirkei Avot, we read, Ezehu Ashir, who is the rich person? And the answer is given, Hasameach Bechelko, the one who rejoices in his portion. Mark saw the world in this way. It takes a genuinely happy person to marry a cookie and to greet each moment with hope and optimism, because that's what he did. Elsewhere in this same text in Pirkei Avot, we read about an argument that the sages have about the way a good person should live. The debate describes Mark. Rabbi Eliezer said that the way a good person should live is to have good eyes, always seeing everything through a sense of goodness. Rabbi Joshua said, no, you should be a good friend. Rabbi Jose said, a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon said, a good person sees the fruit of his actions before he acts. And you don't write 100 of these books if you can't see into the future. And finally, Rabbi Elazar said, a good person has a good heart. Does this not describe our friend Mark Weiss? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai came along and said, yes, all of these things are important: to be a good neighbor, to have see the world in good ways, to anticipate your actions. But he said that the words of Rabbi Elazar are indeed the most important, that if one has a good heart, all the rest will follow. Who else but a man with a good heart can so easily share love like Mark did? Mark was husband of Blanche for 56 years, brother of Edward, father of Michelle and Debbie, grandfather of Seneca and Jeremy, brother-in-law of Nancy, father-in-law of Jonathan, uncle of Steve, Dana, Todd, and Jason. And Mark was a friend to all of you. He was a good man with a good heart who was always content to simply love with all his heart, with all his strength, and he did it in all his days. It is impossible for us to capture the life of a man in a few brief words. Yet Mark's imprint of kindness, integrity, and steadfastness touched all of our lives. The stories of his kindness are more numerous than the printing runs of these books. But I invite now a few of his family and friends to share some of these words that weren't written in the books that he wrote, but are written in the books that we write about him. So first I want to invite his brother, Edward, to come up and share a few words.
Well, you've managed to say everything that I had to say. But I'm his brother, and looking back, I think my brother had a great life in a lot of different ways. These included 2 successful children, a long marriage to his only love, a comfortable home, and ability to work successfully from that home. How many of us can really say that we're able to make a living our entire life living at home? He worked successfully from that home, and he lived in a town with wonderful weather. He was perfectly happy being at home, alone, and never interfered with Blanche's plans to travel or to go here and there with friends. As long as she was happy, he was happy. Yet, all of these wonderful things that the rabbi just said and all the things that I just said in another setting would never have come to pass and would never have happened. He was less than 10 years old when my mother noticed that he was losing weight, that he was having tremendous diarrhea, that he was weak, and took him to doctors. Nobody could figure out what was going on. She came home one day to find him on the kitchen table with the jar of sugar. He was sitting there just pouring it into his mouth. After that, she found him in the backyard eating dirt. Took him to Atlantic City because doctors could not figure out what was going on, and they had no idea what was wrong with this kid, nothing. And yet they finally managed. I loved it because I found a toy truck there once in the sand. They finally cured him, believe it or not, and to this day he still loved them. They cured it with bananas, pounds and pounds of bananas. We know now that the bananas lined his intestinal tract and prevented what we now know as celiac disease, or so-called non-tropical sprue. And for those of you who may not realize it, what happens is that the gluten comes in contact with the intestinal lining. Intestinal lining blows up, gets really swollen, can't absorb food. And he was totally unable to absorb food, and now we know it's pretty simple. In fact, it's gotten so crazy that everybody thinks they've got gluten problems. And it's really crazy, and most people don't. The true diagnosis for celiac disease or non-tropical sprue is really rather rare. Now, I mention this because I believe that it was the defining episode of Mark's life, that everything that followed after that had something to do with this severe illness from which they told his mother at the time that he might not make it to 11 years of age. But it does illustrate several things about my brother. He took this, and he and Blanche became what I believe. I'm a physician, and I used to talk to Blanche a lot about all of the things that gluten is in that you have no idea about. And what they did was they took this as a positive idea, and they became world authorities on gluten and on the types of things that you can see that are made with gluten at the same time, like peanuts and other substances. I believe it really shows how amazing he was. Don't bitch, don't moan, remain positive, remain pleasant, and overcome it, which is exactly what he did. Good job, Mark. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Now I'd like to invite up Mark's friend, Moe.
Hello, everybody. Whenever I saw Mark, he used to tell me, you still look young, and now this morning I woke up and I realized I can't see and I needed glasses, so I'm sorry for the disappointment. Well, early in my life, growing up in Egypt as a little boy from the Muslim faith, my best friend was a Coptic Christian boy who no one else would play with because he was a minority. My heart from early age taught me to see the beauty, the inside of everyone, regardless of the skin color or religious beliefs. With the basic understanding that if we all have faith of a creator, then it was his wisdom to create us all unique and special. That grace prepared me in my profession to meet so many amazing, unique, special individuals from all walks of life. All that being said, I had no idea that my best friend would be an 85-year-old Jewish man living in Miami Beach named Mark Weiss. Especially that I was, at the time, probably less than half of his age. Talking about unique and special, let me tell you how we met. Standing at Eden Rock, I see a man walking around with a small sign on his heart that says, "I love Blanche," with little hearts. I've heard of stories like that all my life, I yet never seen it. I was truly captivated, even though at this stage of my life, I had just seen just about everything. 3 days later, I see a woman walking around the Eden Rock with a heart that says, "I love Mark." I never thought I was a genius, but it was not that difficult to figure out they're a couple. At that moment, I decided I had to walk over and talk to them. And since then, the love and the friendship has never ended. And soon enough, I became the official son of Mark Weiss, and at times I called him Daddy. I can talk about Mark and his influence on me forever, but for the sake of time and respect, I'll be brief. Mark was everything that is unconditional love, because he gave it all the time to everybody with absolute no expectations. Mark was unique and special because he made everyone feel unique and special. Whenever I saw Mark or called him, the discussion was always about how I was doing, how was my family, how was my life, and never about him. When I asked him how he was doing, his answer was all about how grateful he is for everything despite all his health issues, and grateful for his lady, for his family, and for everything life around him, regardless of how small it was. My guess is that he did that the same way with everybody. In an era of the word gratitude that seems to be in style now and a word on everybody's t-shirt, Mark Weiss practiced it and applied it every moment of his life. Mark was an honorable giver who gave with absolute no expectation. Mark was always young and cheerful, more so than any young and cheerful person I have known. Mark was cool, he dressed cool, and acted cool. Every moment you spent with him was an absolute pure joy. Mark lived every moment in his heart where he only saw love and beauty. Never in his mind where we all suffer trying to survive. Mark did not discuss anything negative or anything in the past, as he truly lived fully in the moment. Mark and Blanche and I discussed writing a book together. I actually didn't know they wrote that many books because he never talks about himself. About us, that we can show the world an example of true love, respect, and friendship, regardless of all what seems to be our differences, and yet maybe one day Blanche and I can pursue that project, with Mark guiding us and looking down on us from heaven. And for now, I decided that for Mark's legacy to always be around us is that in every situation where our mind makes us suffer, that we go into our hearts and be grateful and truly think, what would Mark Weiss say and do in that situation? I now ask everyone to please place both of your hands on your heart. And take a deep breath into your heart of gratitude and love to the grace of God and His creation and the guidance in that moment that we all got to know Mark Weiss. Thank you.
Beautiful tribute. Now I'd like to invite up Mark's friend, Maxine.
Dear friends, it's a joy for me to be here and talk to you about Cookie and Mark. You might say, wait a minute, why are we talking about both of them? Because they were one unit. They found each other. They represent unconditional, limitless, eternal love. I'll never forget, and I can't talk long because y'all have already said everything I wanted to say. So I'll never forget one time Mark was putting Cookie in a cab, and he said to the driver, who he never met, "Take good care of her. She is the love of my life. She's the only one I have." Mark and Cookie are an inspiration to me about universal love and truth. Mark was a natural student of human nature. He was able to accept the things he could not change, and he always had a solution. Like sometimes you see swans and ducks, after they have an issue with it, they just shook it off and moved forward. I have not been able to do that in my lifetime. And so it's one of the things I'm working on. And Mark has shown us how to do that. The unconditional love that Mark and Cookie have goes on forever. And I deem it an honor to know both of them in the present tense, because there is a very fine, thin veil between the earth and heaven.
In a few minutes, Seneca's going to share some of her own thoughts, but before that, I'm going to ask her to read this note from Mark's mailman, Wade Johnson.
My reflections of Mark Weiss. It was the year of 1980 that I was transferred to the Ocean View Branch Post Office after spending a year in the North Miami Beach branch. I became the regular relief carrier for a number of delivery routes, one of which included the Lakeview Drive, Alton Road, and North Bay Road area. After several years serving in this role, there came the opportunity to request a full-time assignment in this area due to the retirement of the previous regular mail carrier. To my surprise, I was awarded this assignment in 1982, despite my relative few years of service. It appears that no senior carriers working at the time wanted this assignment due to the vast area that it covered and the toll that it took on a person's body. The route called for the carrier to drive a portion of it, walk for an additional 4 miles, and then ride a bicycle for another 2 miles just to deliver the mail. I was young and full of energy and looked at it as a challenge and opportunity. To this day, I look at it as one of the best decisions that I have ever made in my life. It afforded me the chance to get to know and form relationships with some amazing people. Out of all of them was a man that became my idol, my superhero, a dear and personal friend, Mark Weiss. Mark and I immediately connected due to the fact that he had 2 daughters and a wife, and I also had a wife and 3 daughters, triplet girls, and another daughter on the way, as my wife was then pregnant with our daughter Jasmine. As you can imagine, much of our conversations in those days centered around women and how to deal with the estrogen factor and still keep a smile on our face. My superhero and mentor didn't utter many words during this time, but he chose to lead by example, and lead he did. Never had I witnessed a man demonstrate a love for his wife and family more than Mark. First, with his business, he called it Mark Weiss and Daughters. His girls got top billing. Then there was the affection he showed for his wife, Blanche, aka Cookie. The man talked the talk and walked the walk. When it came to his love for his dear wife, it was in his conversation he had it on his license plate. They had matching attire for God's sake, and if that wasn't enough, he was the first husband that I've ever known to have buttons to advertise it. They read simply, "I love Blanche." What I have learned from this man among men cannot be contained in this simple note. All that I can say is that I will miss him dearly, and I deeply regret the fact that he will not have the chance when I retire to sit on his front porch, both of us in our fancy pajamas, me with an adult beverage and he with his newspapers, just talking about life, family, or nothing in particular. Just two guys enjoying life. I will miss you, Mark, on this side of life, and I can't wait to see you on the other side.
Beautiful. Thank you, Wade. Wade, there was no stamp on this. Wade doesn't care whether there's stamps or not. He'll deliver it. Now I'd like to invite up Mark's son-in-law, Jonathan.
I'm not going for drama, I'm going for survival. I'm Jonathan, Mark's son-in-law plus. I can explain the plus later. Thank you, baby. I'm nicknamed the town crier. You can see why. Once trying to do this in Cabo San Lucas, I actually had to go to commercial. It was a 90-second spot with Guthy Ranker. I am using notes, and I'll require a few pauses, I'm sure, but I only get one chance to do this for Dampy, and I really want to do this well. I'm definitely going to run long, so don't play me off with the music. This is for Dampy. I met Mark when I was 4 years old, so he'd been in my life for 46 years. I've been with his daughter for 31 years, and I was his son-in-law for 22. I'm not trying to compare, I'm just marveling at how much he was in my life. This week has been surreal. All of us, the people who show up, a theme developed this week, as you heard Mohi mention, and the rabbi. All the stories we share come back to the same central idea, that he cared so much about us, always wanting to know how we were, our successes. Mark loved a success story. Mark was a success story, as you heard my father describe. And your love story is otherworldly. Mark listened deeply. He endeavored to ask questions. He sought opinions. He was eternally in research mode. Mark's brilliance was his inquiry. Listening to Cookie's stories as we have over the years, but especially this week, with that sparkle in your eyes, not a single detail forgotten, not a single detail missed. That he got to go quickly and quietly with you. Of anywhere, of any person, that he got to go with you. It's such a mahaya. Can I get a ruling on that? Is that a mahaya? Okay. It was such a mahaya, Cookie, that it could have gone so many different ways, but you were there together. And Annie, talk about superheroes, just in the moment, taking care of business, taking care of our father. Lovely, so lovely to meet you and have you. Mark always said, be lucky in life and be lucky in death. And he really was. He knew it. Mark was so grateful. He was so peaceful. Mark was the wealthiest man alive. Just so many different forms of wealth. Time, space, freedom, love, relationships, creativity. He had it all. And I always admired how he knew how fragile it all was. As you heard, like with Mohi, and I'm sure all of our stories trace back to, we used to sit together, talking, laughing, marveling at the world, how things are, how they're going. Of course, how he and I could fix everything. How we would marvel that no one ever asked us how to fix everything. But he and I, we had it all mapped out. It would have been so easy. We boiled it down to about 45 minutes, and it could have all just been worked out. In speaking with Mark, he would punctuate his listening with a, that's right. I would say something I thought was insightful, and he would just hit me with, of course. That's it. That's right. Of course. And so we would sit, talk, kibitz, laugh. He was a great audience. Mark was a great audience. You guys have been the most amazing support and cheerleaders, and you've reveled in our successes and our learning moments. I learned so much from Mark. It was never about agreeing with him, but understanding. Mark was so well read, and he had so much figured out for himself and for his family. With my late brother, I learned to adore your space. And with Mark, I learned to make your space your own. Didn't need anyone's approval. He wasn't concerned with anyone else's space either. He just always believed in make it yours. It's yours, just make it yours. The reality you guys created was 100% yours, not subject to anyone else's approval or opinion. And it's an amazing space. When you enter it, the unusual level of love is friends like Sandy and Robin and Jenna, they've dreamed about coming to Rainbow House. It's legendary status on the West Coast. And every single one of them, when they walked in the house, at some point spoke these words, I want to live here. This place is just the biggest hug. I never, ever questioned Mark's love for me. Because of our early relationship, I got to skip the vetting phase, which was really nice. And there was a part of me that always joked quietly to myself that maybe that irked him on some level, that this kid got in, okay. So I never doubted his love for me, but I loved that over the years that I earned his respect. He really, really respected me and how I treated his daughter and his granddaughter. I'll never forget the first time when hanging up, the first time I heard him say, I love you too. And I ran to Debbie, hey, guess what your dad said? And I'll never forget the first time he beat me to it and he said it first. That was a big day in the West Coast office. That was a big day. Closing accounts. Debbie, after knowing you since I was 4 years old and being your partner for 31 years, I'm still so blown away by you. You are next level. You are nextlevel.com. You are Next Level LLC, LLP, nextlevel.org. If you want to, if you need to get it done, call Debbie Weiss. We joke, our friends from the West Coast, we joke that we're the Marines. First in, last out. For all of our events, the good, the happy, the sad. But we also call ourselves Bravo Company. Because if we get anything done, we say, bravo. You have been a stellar daughter. Stellar, from childhood to today, never skipping a beat. As daughters go, never skipping a beat. Amazing, really amazing daughter to your father and your mother. I am in awe of you every day. You embody patience mixed with move. And so it's amazing with Debbie. You don't notice the move part, but she gets it done. You coming in this week to your mom so immediately and telling everyone, move. We have stuff to do. Let's get it done. Tremendous. To be side by side with you last night in your childhood bedroom at 1 a.m, writing our eulogies together, it's so unbelievable to have that moment with you, planning to eulogize your father. It's the intersection of Naches and Shrek, pride and dread, which I think gives insight to that character's name. The Yiddish team helped clarify that word for me today. Thank you, ladies. Your father loved you so much, he adored you so much, he respected all that you created so much. I loved watching him from childhood till last month, just covering you in hugs and kisses. The minute we got to the house from landing in town, and he would plop himself down, just sizzling and licking his chops to get a hold of his daughter and cover her with kisses and hugs. It was unbelievable. These two enjoyed backroom business meetings that I truly was never invited to. The door would close in the office, and it was clear that I was not welcome. And it was their special space, and it was their special time to hear about her career and the happenings in life and their dream business. Until, of all things, amazing how the universe works, on our last visit, I got invited in, and I got to sit with you and your father and sit in on the meeting. I actually got 2 ideas accepted. It was a crowning moment of pride that I walked out of there, that I added value to the non-existent business. That it existed to us. That's right. He loved living through your career, mine too, but he loved living through your career. All that you've created for yourself. He loved visiting our little house, loved spending time with us in our space, as he loved to create his space, loved coming into ours. And Mark enjoyed, of all of his granddaughters, you were his absolute favorite. We can say it now, it's okay. The way you handle school and the way you handle yourself, the work you do at Children's Hospital, your routines, the shtick you enjoyed, he was so thrilled to have you. And I'm so thrilled that you had Dampy for 12 years. He just adored you. Honey, a very real part of why I enjoy our conversations about our dream restaurant is because it allows me to connect to Dampy and his daughter and the conversations that I've never been invited to. It's okay. I got it. And so when I have those conversations with you, so far it's an omelet, sushi, spaghetti meatball. The name is Birdie's Cafe. It helps me connect to Dampy, doing that with my daughter. And I just love those conversations. Cookie, there are no words for you. Your quiet strength, it just blows my mind. I cannot describe, I can't thank to you, I can't point to, I can't hold it up, what you mean to this family. I just can't. You have grown and developed so much. You're so open-minded. You're so accepting and curious and willing. And everything we've gone into, it's just so wonderful. On Tuesday, Cookie called Debbie to say, "This is it, babe. Daddy's going. Would you like to say goodbye?" And she held the phone to Mark's ear so Debbie could say goodbye to her dad. Tremendous presence of mind to think of us. And then she called me in my classroom. I'm a school teacher back home. And said, "This is it. Dampy's going. Would you like to say goodbye?" And so I'm standing in the doorway of my classroom with 30 10-year-olds killing each other behind me. And I'm trying to say goodbye to my father-in-law in the doorway of my classroom, ignoring whatever the heck's going on in the room. But again, that you had the presence of mind to think of Debbie and myself, and that we got to, on some level, say goodbye to Dan. That was wonderful. Mark used to, in very true just guy talk, used to say, "Oh, wait till they find out my cookie's going to be available." And he totally meant it. He was so proud. He was so proud. "Oh, cookie, please." He joked about writing her profile on JDate. We're not going to do JDate because I don't need some schmendrick from Chatsworth, bothering us. Cookie, I watched you caretake your mother for years with daily needs, with such grace, and never a negative word about it. The way you treated your mother was phenomenal. Then I watched you do the exact same thing for your husband for years, with daily needs, never a negative word, and just such grace. So beautiful. If that's not what life and partnership's all about, I don't know what is. Your karmic account is full. It's earning 7%. Most karmic accounts are bleeding 7%. Cookie, we've talked over the years about you coming to California so that we can caretake for you. And when that time comes, I promise you, Cookie, we're going to give you the absolute best because nobody deserves it more than you. We'll have a lot of fun, but I promise you, Cook, we're going to take care of you how you deserve. And in the meantime, there's so much life ahead, so much living you're going to do, and we love that we'll do it with you. There is only one Cookie. Through you, I've learned how to love and how to deserve love. And I love you and I thank you.
Beautiful. Seneca?
I have no idea how I'm going to follow that. When I first sat down to start writing my eulogy, I didn't even know how to describe my grandfather. I was writing with a red pen, and I couldn't think of anything. So then I switched to his famous purple pen, and the words started flowing. Here it is. He had a bunch of different shades, but every package he sent, it was always purple. Mark Weiss, or as I call him, Dampy, is the most intelligent person I have ever met, not just with his brains, but in so many different ways. This 12th grade dropout created such an amazing life for himself, his wife, his daughters, and his grandchildren, and so many other people. He was beautiful inside and out in every possible way. We all have so many memories with him. Some of mine are waking up in the middle of the night and having a huge rice cake party, and then going right back to sleep. Another one is receiving a weekly package from him, of course, always in purple pen, and opening it, having articles for me, for my mom, and for my dad. Another memory I have is reading our favorite book, Mr. Happy. It was like the book was written about him. He truly was Mr. Happy. He was always so positive through everything that went on in life. He cared about everyone he knew, and he showed it. He was such a loving and kind person. I'll love you forever, Dampy. And I'll always treasure your Jewish star necklace that you wore every day for years until your neck couldn't handle it.
Debbie.
I don't know if I can have my dad's 1,000 free materials on love, sex, and marriage while I give his eulogy right in front of me. I was asked to take a pause for 1 second. We're going to commercial for a moment. Are we okay? Okay. Well, let's start with the good stuff. Thank God for Xanax and readers. Daddy had 3 pillars to live by. Real simple. Love, kindness, laughter. Every day when we'd come home from school, Daddy was waiting for us. We'd come home with our backpacks and we'd tease him. Don't you work? Why are you staring out the window? Don't you have real work to do? Why aren't you like our friends' parents? Go to an office somewhere. Go to work. Our dad worked from home. Our home-based family business included our grandfather, both parents, Michelle and I. And we started at a very early age. Like my dad, I was not a great student in school, and we realized that we learned in the same way, really by working, by modeling, by watching, by mentors. Many stories, a lot of friends that I'm seeing here could tell stories about the school calling my dad to say, Debbie skipped class again, she skipped school, and we found her at the deli having breakfast again. And my dad would say, that's so wonderful, I hope she had a good breakfast. Happened many, many times. One of the stories that John loves the most about the type of parenting and shtick was that, and we ordered from there last night, Master's Pizza. All the kids love Master's Pizza, and we were going to Master's Pizza, and we were skipping school, of course, and we were walking across the street to go to Master's, a group of us, and my dad was at the red light, stopped in the car. And he waved at me, and I waved at him. And I skipped into Masters, and we never spoke about it again. Happened. Miami Beach is small, as you guys know. His focus was teaching love. He didn't really care about school. He taught kindness. He taught laughter. He taught life. He taught how to be a mensch. Just be a mensch. As I got older and started to become more interested in the business, we started talking about business a lot. I had a lot of questions. I didn't understand. And then I started realizing all that gazing out the window while sitting at his typewriter, his old little typewriter, somehow that paid for the house and the cars and the clothes and the school. and the camp and on and on and on. How? I don't know. It brought us a pretty comfortable life, whatever it was. I don't know what he was doing. I know he swam at the beach every day. That seemed pretty good. He took Mom out to dinner and dancing 3 nights a week. That seemed pretty good. It was the 70s, so maybe he was way before his time with this whole working from home stuff. Way before his time, 70s. But how does someone who never attended college learn to write books, publish them, sell them through mail order, fulfill all of the handling and processing of this entrepreneurial family business with his wife by his side out of our converted garage? How? We really don't know. My parents wrote and published over 100 books together. A lot of people don't know that. That's come out a lot this week. 40 years they worked together. Side by side, they grew, and it came from a passion of helping people. There's a sampling of his books out front. Please don't take them, because we only have 1 copy of each. That was a plug for my mom. They grew this passion into an empire, and it was an empire that helped people. What a great way to make your living. Look at the books on the way out. You'll get a laugh from them. You'll also see big clear bins next to them. They're filled with hundreds and hundreds of testimonials, letters that people wrote into my parents thanking them. God, I got great ideas from your book. I saved money. I did this. I did that. Their research, their knowledge, their resources. Your life's work, it mattered. What you guys did really mattered. Not a lot of people can say that. Throughout high school, my friends and I used to run into my parents at discos and nightclubs. That was a treat. Yeah, they never drank and they never smoked, but it was the 80s and they loved to dance, and so there they were. I, of course, had a fake ID and was there and wasn't supposed to be there, and once again it was, and I'd see them and all my friends would see them and we'd wave. Naomi's nodding. Hi, Naomi. Renee's nodding. All these people that I grew up with, friends who know that this is true. My parents were at the clubs. It's real. Whether I liked it or not, my friends thought it was the best. They loved it. Miami nightlife in the 80s. It was sick. After I went to college, my parents were always the biggest supporters, and my dad would send me, I know you won't believe this, but barrels and barrels of motivational letters, cards. Amazing. I was the first college grad in our family, and he took great pride in that. When I started working, things really shifted for us. I started a professional marketing career 23 years ago, and Dad was front row center. He was into it. So we started this lifelong dialogue about marketing, except here was his fun part. We were experimenting with someone else's money now and not his money, and he thought that was the best. So I'd get a call usually, and he'd say, honey, what's our budget this year? How much do we have? And I would say, who's we? And we'd be off and running. It got fun, really fun. We worked together on all my marketing campaigns. He researched for me. He sent me thousands of articles. He worked through business scenarios. We challenged each other. He pushed me. And then we got to Ernst & Young. He thought we had arrived. And he would say, I'm a poor Philadelphia rat. That's what he would call himself, a poor Philadelphia rat. And my daughter's in downtown LA in an ivory tower. And he thought that was cool. Let's go get him. So he jumped on the corporate roller coaster with me, and he loved every second. We'd giggle. It was like we were partners in crime, but it wasn't a crime. He was helping. It was like this secret that we had. We pulled off some scam. He couldn't believe that. In his lifetime, he was going to play with a corporate marketing budget and not my mom and dad's, cruise money. Those were the risks that they were taking. It was awesome. So we'd plot and plan, and that went on and on. My biggest secret in my professional career is that my father was my back office. literally and figuratively. When the internet finally dissolved my parents' business, he reinvented himself again. It was fine. He was my social media expert now. He made it his life's work in his retirement to learn everything he possibly could about social media and marketing. He used to, this was his term, he would mottle people, that was what he said, by typing letters on his old typewriter. Now I'm nurturing prospects with disruptive mailers and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. And in his mind, we were doing the exact same thing, and we are, just different vehicles. In the 70s, my parents were in the converted garage. He was marketing, writing. We eventually nicknamed him on his 86th birthday. He was my intern number 86. And every letter was signed intern number 86 until he turned 87. And then it was signed intern 87, 88, and lastly 89. After I had a family and I moved on and joined Crow, my national position now gave me the opportunity to work from home. Don't think that he wasn't thrilled and teased endlessly. Now I'm the one who's staring out the window. Now I'm the one that doesn't have a real job. And while I'm typing away and I'm on my laptop and I'm staring out my window, I get to be home every day when my family rolls into the driveway and comes home. My daughter said she doesn't think I work. That's great. That's exactly right. But just like my daddy, I get the best of both worlds. I love my career and I also love my family, and I get to be there for both. And I learned that from my parents. I learned how to make that work. So our biggest marketing campaign landed in Time magazine, and I called him and we cried together. And I said, Daddy, we made it to Time, and he was crying. He couldn't believe it. And he said, go get 100 copies of Time magazine. Why do we need 100 copies? He loved it. Hand in hand, we tested campaigns on LinkedIn and Google AdWords and Twitter, and he'd pore over the data, and he'd circle, purple pen, all of the areas I needed to improve. If my opens were up, but my click-through rates were down and my downloads were bad, I got a letter. Thumbs down. Tell me another 89-year-old who knows more about how to successfully market on the internet, and I'll put intern 89 against them every time. Even the 22-year-olds on my digital marketing team know that my dad's ideas are good and they take them. We were a force. We have an imaginary internet business that was mentioned. I can't tell you the idea because it's so good you'll steal it. But his brain never stopped creating. So now we're going to switch gears quickly to who my father revered, which is my mother. Never could we have asked for a better, more loving, supportive, encouraging wife and mother. So, Mom, if you can, I wanted you to come up here for a minute. I just want you to look out for a minute. Thank you. Careful. And we just want to publicly acknowledge your quiet, heroic role as the most selfless, loving caregiver, caretaker of all time. So let's just all together, with all the love in the room, let's take a moment just in silence so that you can feel and absorb all of the love and the gratitude that's in this room for you. Wow. You could sit. I could sit if you feel comfortable. Yeah. Seneca, watching you develop your own special relationship with Dampy was one of the sweetest things I've ever experienced. Your pure joy together warmed my heart beyond. I just loved watching you two. Reading, talking, laughing together, it didn't matter what you were doing. In some ways, you might feel cheated at this point. You only had him for 12 years. But we always knew we were living on borrowed time. And so to have 12 years of that borrowed time was spectacular. So I'm not sad that you only had him till 12. I'm happy that you had him for 12. And that's what I always want you to think about. We made the most of every call and letter, and you were great about it. It didn't matter what was coming in the envelope, just that it showed up for you. Dampy loved you beyond words, and I know you know that. And he will always be your number one, Dampy. Now here's a little twist. I also have to thank my father for bringing me together with the love of my life. He is somewhat responsible, as Ed is responsible too. Mark and Ed played a big role in John and I finding true love with each other. As cousins, as friends, and as partners in life. You were incredibly supportive of our relationship, Dad, and for that I'm really grateful. There wasn't ever any judgment. It was just love, just pure love. Daddy did love you like a son, and even though he reminded you often that you stole me from him, and he meant stole, he greatly admired you. He deeply respected you, and he was in awe, really. Is there nothing this man can't do? He found peace knowing my mom would be well cared for after he left. You were an integral part and player in him finding that peace of mind. Thank you for being a true partner in this journey that we share. One of the great honors in our 22-year marriage has been sharing my dad with you. He was incredibly proud of the man, husband, and father that you are. Pedro, you were a son. He always thought of you as a son. You were incredible and you're special, and we're very grateful for you, Pedro. Thank you. He cared about you very much. He had a lot of adopted sons, a lot of adopted people. Moe, we had a great conversation the other day, the same. Wade, the same. Annie, thank you to you too. There was a wonderful group of people. To family and friends who flew in from all over, from California, a large contingency, so grateful, from Boston, from Tampa, from all over Miami, from New York, from Albany, and Atlanta. I hope I didn't miss anybody. What? Hawaii. Yes, Ed and Nancy were in Hawaii. Thank you. So back to I'm going to leave you with the 3 pillars: love, kindness, and laughter. You've heard a lot about the purple pen. If you were ever lucky enough to receive anything that resembled this, an article, a note, if it was written from him, it was surely written in purple pen. I got these mailers every week filled with articles. Every week, sometimes more. You got them? Every week. People got them. All of our friends loved seeing the Dampy boxes and the Dampy mailers. They were always there. The article, yes. Of course. Of course. Because Wade was on the trail. contents would range from global warming to new recipes for John to cook for me, to Facebook's security breaches, to how not to get scammed with identity theft, to the Sunday styles from his beloved New York Times, and to how to avoid germs in the gym. Random. This one actually arrived on Monday, the day before he passed away. This was my last mailer with the comforting purple pen. Still have it. So today we are launching, this is going to make everybody happy now. We're launching the Mark Weiss Purple Pen Kindness Movement. Is everybody down? Is everybody in? So I bought out all of the purple pens in all of Miami Beach yesterday. And we're going to pass these around. I hope there's enough. And each person is going to take a purple pen. And the Mark Weiss Purple Pen Kindness Movement is very simple. Every single person says when someone dies, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? We have babka. We have cake. Each one of you was touched by this person. So to honor his memory, take a purple pen, write someone a note, and mail it through our glorious U.S. Postal Service. Don't email, don't text. Write someone you love a note with a purple pen. And that's how my Father's kindness will spread. One person at a time. We all need this. Write notes to me in purple pens. I'll write you back. I'll write everyone back. If we all spread this love and kindness and laughter, then my Father's legacy will truly be honored, and he will live on forever in all of us. So I dedicate the Mark Weiss Purple Pen Kindness Movement to my Mumke. I called him Mumke. I love you, Mumke, always and in all ways.
I want to invite Cantor Siegel to come up now, who's going to share a song with us. And as she's coming up, just absolutely beautiful, beautiful tributes. I do want to make mention of one moment that occurred years ago when the day that Mark and Cookie met in an elevator, and they said hello to each other, and the next day, the written word obviously was very important. The next day, Blanche's father put a note in her typewriter that said, "Cookie, don't eat your lunch. Mark Weiss is coming by to take you to lunch." They went to the Jockey Bar and Grill on Flagler. Flagler had sliced steak and French fries. And a month later, Mark proposed, and he said these important words: "I need to know your real name." And that's who Mark was. He somehow found a way to find our real names. He connected with us in a real, deep, and profound way. He had a Shem Tov, a good name, and we honor that memory now.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You've been content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind, so I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Course I know it. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I would like to be. Oh, I could fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Thank God, the wind beneath my wings. Thank God, you are the wind beneath my wings.
We take a few quiet moments to remember each in our own way. We recite now the Amalei Rachamim prayer, this prayer that asks that Mark's soul go to a place of comfort in your hearts as well as a place of comfort in the universe. I ask you to please rise.
El Malei Rachamim shochen bameromim Hamsei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina im kedoshim utahorim kezar harakia mazhirim et nishmat Moshe ben Velvel v'Flora shalach le'olamo ba'ol harachamim yastirehu b'tseter kenafav le'olamim v'yitzror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom amishkavo v'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Mark M. Weiss, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say together, Amen. In a moment, we'll recite words of Kaddish. The Kaddish prayer is said at this moment. It speaks nothing about death and dying, but rather talks about life and living and being in awe of the extraordinary miracle that we call life and our ability to lift ourselves up and pursue holiness. The way we remember in our tradition is not through the pictures or through the written words or through the experiences that we had, but rather through the values that are lived, the values that Mark lived at his very best moments. And every time we can take those values into our hearts and translate them out into our hands through our deeds, we'll remember him and we'll honor him. So we take a quiet moment to remember those values as we prepare to recite words of Kaddish. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of this one be a blessing to us as we recite together Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabbah, b'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'agala v'zman kariv yimru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mivarak Le'olam Olamei Almaya Yit Barak V'yishtabak V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Roman V'yit Naseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudusha B'rechu Le'elah Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Da'miran V'yalma V'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. Osei Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimaru. Amen. May the source of peace grant peace to all of you who mourn, comfort all who are bereaved, and send healing to all of you who are saddened, as together we say, Amen. I'd like to invite you to return to the family home at 5127 Alton Road. Family will be gathering there until 8 o'clock this evening. This does conclude our service, and I want to thank you for being here today, as well as the days that have passed, and certainly the days to come. Al makomo yavo b'shalom, al makomo yavo b'shalom, al makomo yavo b'shalom. May Mark come to his eternal home in peace, and let us say together, Amen.